this isn't bad. You can listen to this all day if you want to listen to the CB band, right? Hey, everybody says, hey, Mike, I want to see it work. Get it on the air. See if it can transmit. See if it can receive. Okay, I think I can do something quickly to at least see if it works and see if some parts need to be replaced. And it's going to be interesting just to figure out how to hook up to it, but at least we have the guide. And now that we know that this came out of an article from the late 50s, it might even be wired correctly to the article, so I can actually hook up to that octal socket and hook up the speaker and come up with some kind of microphone connection and see if we can make the set work. So that's what this video is all about. Let's make the little mystery transceiver, the mystery CB transceiver, work on the air, or at least into a dummy load, and prove that it actually works. So who knew that this little junk box project radio from 1960 was going to take me down a rabbit hole? It seems like Heathkit's CB1 and the subsequent Heath Lunchbox series was really kicked off by this article by Donald Stoner, W6TNS, who was a rabid engineer in ham, and this article is from 1959 that started everything. Did Heath rip off the idea? Basically, I think so. It was a great idea. At this time, the rules for Class CB in the old 11-meter band, basically stolen from the hams, did not have any restrictions that we know today. They didn't have the same restrictions anyway. And Stoner beautifully described the perfectly legal operation for that time period in the late 50s and early 60s. You could build your own CB. You could communicate without any range limits. He was essentially describing a licensed, code-free HF experience, open to anyone except if you were under the age of 18 or an alien. So I guess I was wrong about the aliens. They couldn't use this transceiver. Anyway, this little radio project represented a way to get on CB cheaply. There weren't that many radios out there, and they were expensive. So with the CBers greatly outnumbering ham radio licensed operators, something had to change. It was complete pandemonium on the CB band, at least pandemonium compared to what we were used to on the bands. Something had to change, and that change happened in 1964. So let's get a load of Don's operating position in his shack. And many of Don's books focused on the beginner. Yes, he was an editor and big contributor to CQ Magazine and QST, but he also wrote these nice books for the beginning ham and the technician. Don did an article for QST that basically kicked off Project Oscar. Oscar was the satellite program that really started along with the space program in the 1960s. And Don Stoner was a big promoter of single sideband, and he would design and form many companies, including maritime single sideband radios for companies like SGC. He's the S, by the way, in SGC. And he designed for Cubic, starting with the Astro series. He started a CB manufacturing company with his name on it, Stoner. The catch there was he only made single sideband radios. These sets did not even have the AM mode. They're very collectible, by the way. Get a load of his Solid State Beginner's book. This is retro QRP to the max. He even shows how to make a simple positive cycle AM modulation booster using diodes, and this is solid state. Finally, he apparently outdoes VK3YE with his 60-second tunnel diode transmitter. Unfortunately, Don did not live to a ripe old age. He was a silent key at age 67. And this was a great loss to both the ham and the CB community. Anyway, let's get back to his little transceiver. So first things first, keeping with the normal
course of events for an unknown device that comes into your hands and you want to check it out and see if it works. The first thing I do with a tube type piece of equipment is test the tubes. We want to make sure that these tubes are all testing okay on the meter. And you know, I don't find too many tubes of this era going bad. This is the pinnacle of miniature tube technology. The vacuums are excellent, and usually the tubes are not abused too much compared to some of the older types. Also, it's going to get a bath. I'm not going to try to fire it up without giving it some kind of a bath to clean it up and get the thing somewhat clean so I can look at the parts and see if anything obviously needs to be replaced. Somebody mentioned, oh, these capacitors, you better be careful with these capacitors. You never know, they might need replacing. Yeah, maybe not. So we'll see. This electrolytic, whatever it's doing in there, it may need to be reformed or replaced. But these ceramic discs that are all over, and even the micas that are around the RF section, they look pretty good. I mean, there's not a lot that can go wrong with those types of capacitors. Occasionally you do see one that has water incursion and it goes bad, but in general, I think this thing is going to fire right up. I'm thinking positive, but yeah, I think that the receiver section is going to come up and we're going to hear hissing coming out of it and so on. So, yeah, I wonder what this jack is. Could that be the speaker? I'm not going to guess. I'm going to get the original article out and see if I can figure out if, this is the regen control, if this is the speaker. Is this the speaker? Is this the regen control? Why do we have these two terminals? Maybe that's the speaker. And this obviously is the power input. This is the tuning for the Supperregen. This is your transmit receive switch. This on-off, who knows? Maybe that's just on-off. I don't know. This mic connector with the single input, I may have to replace that to something that, like the old 4-pin, something that I have a microphone that will fit in here. And then the volume control is just what it says, the volume control. So I think this is going to be fairly straightforward to get back on the air. So the radio is starting to give up a few more clues as I start to clean it. You'll notice that even though I've hit the surface with cleaner, it's still got smudge marks. Also, there are markings for where the holes are drilled. There's like two L1s here, one in pencil and one with some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of a marking that doesn't want to come off. I believe that this must have been built from very specific plans. And somebody in the comments mentioned, who builds a CB? Well, the person who builds a CB is the person who does not have one. They're not generally available yet for a price he can afford. And there is a spectacularly well-written article with parts lists and good, easy-to-read instructions on how to construct the transceiver. So I believe this did come from the Stoner article in Radio News Magazine, and that it does predate a lot of the Heathkit equipment that was used in VHF. Also, notice high-quality parts. These are ceramic tube sockets. Who labels L1, L3, L4? Who labels these without instructions? Do you build something and immediately have a schematic ready with L1, L2, L3, and then mark it on the chassis? Again, I believe this is exactly from an article, and he's building it pretty much to plan. He might have even had a technician professionally build it for him. But this is indeed an early CB before CBs were that common, and certainly CBs would have been all tube type at that time, and crystal control. Okay, this Sylvania 12AX7A is measuring very good on the first section, and I'm not going to bore you testing all of these tubes, but I do this just as a matter of course, so we make sure that we have good tubes out of the box before I fire it up. So there were some comments on, hanging this thing upside down in the truck. With the vibration, the tubes, of course, are going to pop out. And two things. First of all, these are the highest quality ceramic sockets. Even the crystal has a ceramic socket. And when you put a tube in one of these things, I guess I'll grab the 12AX7. Okay. These really grab. These are not toys. That guy is not going to come out of there. Okay, that hard. Now also, you'll notice that to guarantee that they're not coming out, they have these spring-loaded tube covers, and yeah, they're not going anywhere. Now, there were only three. The fourth one's missing. Oh, and look at this. It's a 6005 for the 6AQ5, a military version of the tube. Very nice for the audio output. It's the 6AU8 that was missing its shield, and it takes a larger shield, so I ended up using this black painted one. And there we are. All the tube shields are in place. And by the way, that transmitter tube, the 6AU8, can be replaced by the much more common 6AW8A. And while we're on the subject of miniature vacuum tubes, I'm going to show you one of Tim, WA1HLR's favorite miniatures. Here they are. It's the 12HG7. What's a 12HG7 and why is it so special to Tim? Since the Stoner article in Radio News from 1959 had an onboard power supply, I can't count on that article for showing me how to hook up power. Also, I can't count on this connector being the same setup as a Heathkit CB1 or a Heathkit Lunchbox. So I'm going to have to try to figure out what the filament input voltage is, how they wired it, and also what the high voltage input is on that connector, as well as ground. So I believe I have hacked these two terminals and this jack. This is the audio output jack for plugging in headphones, or when you plug in the headphones here, it cuts off the connection to these terminals, which is the external speaker terminals. So there's a headphone jack and there are speaker terminals. So far, so good. I managed to find the filament. It looks like it's wired for 6 volts. Everything is wired for 6 volts, including the 12AX7, which you can wire by putting both filaments in parallel. And it's drawing about 1.8 amps at 6 volts for all the tubes. Pretty substantial filament load, but again, some of these are power tubes, so they do take a little extra. Okay, so who said there might be some capacitors that need to be changed? Definitely got some amplification, but terrible hum. So looks like we might have some shorted coupling caps, and it's causing some hum to occur. I am seeing a little bit of output on the meter when I go to transmit though. So I think the transmitter is going to come up okay. But definitely need some caps changed out. It's starting to come back to life at 90 volts. So like most troubleshooting, we'll start with the receiver. And because the audio amplifier is used both in transmit and receive, we have to get the audio amplifier working first. So the suspects in the amplifier are the two electrolytics and the emitters, this coupling cap, and any bypass caps around the volume control and the output stage, the 6AQ5. So let's attack these capacitors first. I just noticed that this potentiometer took a big hit. See, this is at an angle, and I just checked that pot and it's all messed up. So the 1 meg audio pot's got to be replaced. You can see the setup. I've removed 3 capacitors and replaced them. And I replaced the volume pot on the Supperregenerator here with a 1 meg. I don't have a microphone hooked up. Everything is in. I've checked with the tubes not in circuit. I checked all the pins to make sure high voltage was getting to them. I've got a power supply over here. This power supply can go from 0 to 350 volts, and I think about 250 is what this thing would want. That would be my guess. just based on the resistors they used. So let's see if the super regenerator will come up as I slowly bring up the variac. Man, it'd be nice if this thing started hissing. I have a dummy load and a meter for the transmit function. So let's start bringing up the variac. So there was absolutely nothing coming out of the super regenerative stage until I unfroze this trimmer. It was solid, completely oxidized. I had to hit it with deoxit, and then suddenly it came to life. I wonder how many people would know to do that are trying to bring up an old radio. Okay, that's probably about 250 volts, and I hear hissing. Everybody recognizes that. Yeah. That's a super regenerator, all right. There's some interaction between them. It's definitely super regenerating. Let's try transmit. Ooh, look at that. I'm getting out about a watt. Just about a watt on the meter. I don't know how much we'd expect out of this thing, but it's transmitting. Let me turn on the receiver, see if I can get a carrier. See if I can pick this up. Okay. That's not good. Some kind of... Now with no microphone, I don't know what's going on, but... My receiver says there's something on frequency at 27.58. It's supposed to be 27.055, so it's a little bit high in frequency, but it is transmitting. How do you like that? Let me take out the 12AX7 and see if that stops. Oh yeah, that's better. That's a dead carrier. So definitely got some wobulation or hum or something coming in on the speech amp. There's some work that needs to be done here. Okay, but in basic terms, it is working. I can try to hook it up to an antenna to see if I can hear something, or I can hook it up to the generator to see if it'll demodulate something. Let's try the generator. Okay, I've got the generator set for minus 70 dBm with 40% AM modulation. And it looks like it's 27 something. So let's try to tune it. Pretty broad. Okay, minus 70. Minus 80. Minus 90. Minus 100. Not bad. So it's going to take a lot of convincing for me to go any further with this thing. Hey, it super regenerates. The band is completely trashed because of the solar activity that we've had lately. And it'll be a while before I get back around to this thing. But I did want to do the basic troubleshooting. And it turned out we had to change out 3 capacitors and a potentiometer to get it to work to the point it is working. I tried a couple other crystals in it, and they do oscillate. Not the greatest transmitter in the world with only a little over a watt output. Maybe that can be improved, but I'm not going to go crazy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little follow-up video to the mystery transceiver, and it basically is functioning now. I'd say it's maybe at the 85% level, and I understand what they're doing with this rig, so maybe there will be another video where we can get it on the air and try to make a contact, but that's as far as I'm going right now.